YouTube world, and thank you for joining me for another industry chat. Today I am very fortunate to have with me Ricard Cusso, who's the director of the upcoming film Combat Wombat. Thank you for joining me, Ricard.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, Kim.
And of course we're up in beautiful Brisbane. Even though we're not in lockdown, we're still separated by distance.
I know, yeah. I mean, it's the thing of it's the new
new. Social distancing has created new ways of doing things.
Oh, definitely.
So I guess to start off with, just for people who have never actually talked to you before or don't know much about you and don't even know that you've done animated features before, can we just start off with just a quick rundown of how you actually got into getting towards feature film and getting towards actually being a director as on an animated feature?
Sure. I think that my journey or my career has been quite different to what usually animation directors are. I think that usually they either come from story, head of story and storyboard, or they come from concept, or they're animators themselves. And I actually come from a live action background. So I was born and raised in Spain, and when I turned 18, my whole family moved to Australia. And at that point, I wanted to become an actor. So I studied acting, and I was fortunate enough to join an entertainment company that does live shows of big Hollywood brands worldwide. So I got to travel around the world, and from acting, I kind of started directing the shows. So it got to a point where I was living in Mexico, and I was directing the Terminator live show and the Van Helsing live show. And it was very, very good, very exciting, but I just wanted to do film, and that's when I started to really get into wanting to do film. So I moved back to Australia and studied film at Griffith Film School up in Queensland. And right after that, I joined a production company called Like a Photon, and I've been with them ever since, and I've been kind of their in-house director. So I've been doing all their ads and that we've had in our we had like a Kindigo, which was like a reading platform, and we do a lot of development, and we create our own IP. So anything that we needed to get directed, then I was there for that. And then maybe 2 years ago, the company got approached by Universal, the home entertainment branch in Australia, and they wanted us to pitch, like, they had this idea of creating this multiverse of films based on Australian animals. And we came up with the concept of Tales from Sanctuary City, and we pitched them 10 films, and they say, yeah, which was great, right? So there was us, like a company that we had done a couple TV shows for Disney and Sesame Street, but we'd never done feature, or at least not animation or animated features. So that is how my first directing gig started for an animated feature film, which was really exciting and terrifying at the same time, because we were doing 3 films out of the gate and back to back. So there were, like, during a period of 1 year, I was directing 3 films at the same time. And at the same time, we were creating a brand new animation studio to produce these films, because we wanted to do them entirely in Queensland. So yeah, it was a big challenge, and now we're 2 years down, and we got 2 films, 1 film released, 1 about to release, and 1 just nearing the end of production. So it's been crazy. It's been a crazy journey.
Yeah, it is something that hasn't happened in Australia before, where we've actually got a package of films being made together. So it's really exciting that you were able to score that in Queensland as well. Was there a lot? Do you know if there was a lot of competition to actually get that initial package from Universal?
To be honest, I'm not too sure. I don't remember, because we were working on something else in different projects, and this is another one that came in. So we had our like Kristen Suvelis and Nidim Bates, which are our bosses and amazing producers. They were looking after the Tales from Sanctuary City and the conversations with Universal. And then it was just one morning we get to the office, and it's like, we got it. It's like, oh shit, we're going to do 3 feature films. So yeah, unfortunately, I'm not too sure how that came about, but That's yeah.
Yeah, so you were there right from the start, before the studio even kind of blossomed to go, we can make it. So how big was the team where you started off going, oh, we've got to make a film?
We had a very small office in the Gabba in South Brisbane. I think there was maybe 3-4 producers, and we were lucky. Like, we got this amazing team that all the producers. I think all of us were Griffith graduates, and we just recently graduated maybe a year or two when this happened. So we fresh out of uni, and so it was like the four of us, Nadine and Kristen. And we had a digital department because at the same time we were working on the Kindergo app. But that was it. That like the core team was like 5-6 people. And then suddenly we're doing 3 feature films for Universal. So that was a big step up.
Yep. Oh, but you had your enthusiasm and faith that it was going to happen. Is that sort of what got you going then?
Oh, definitely. I mean, it's not how often do you get to produce, direct like feature films, the 3 of them animated. It was amazing, and I think that we're all something that is very characteristic of us and in the company is like we're all very passionate. We all love what we do, and we just never looked at like there was no negatives. It was just like let's do it. Let's find ways to do it. And one of the first things that we did was we had to hire a team that they would not teach us, but show us the way, because I mean, it was the first time that, as I said, like it was our first feature, so we kind of knew what we wanted to do, but in order to get there, it was a different story. Like we had no idea about pipelines. We didn't know what hardware we need to get, like how many computers do we need, like that kind of stuff. And then just learning about the process, and from pre to prod and post, and so all that it took like 6 months of learning on how to get that studio up, and then we moved offices down to beautiful Rockley and the industrial area of southern Brisbane, but we got all set up there. It was us, the producers, like putting the tables together, putting all the computers together, and cabling everything, and painting the walls, and then start of September. So 2017, we had the first script ready, we had storyboards starting, and we had our base team about to go. So that's where it all began.
Well, how did you go? Because Queensland isn't known for its animated feature film. How did you go with actually getting a team together? Was it hard to find the people that were keen to work on it?
It was extremely hard to find people. Not that they were not keen or not, but it was just finding the number. Because till this point, it all was really happening in Sydney, right? Like there was really no big animation studio here, and it kind of all happened at once because kind of Bluey was starting at the same time as we were. So kind of we had like all these 2 things starting at the same time in Brisbane, Queensland, and suddenly like there's jobs, like everyone's looking for people, and we were very fortunate, and big effort goes to Ryan Greaves, our producer, to just finding the right people, because I think that the group of talent that we managed to get for these films is truly amazing. I mean, everyone's so talented, so passionate, and without all of their work, like these films would not have been possible. And we're just very, very lucky finding amazing, talented juniors as well. I mean, we've got we got Griffith, not film school, but like the animation side of it, the QCA and QUT, and there's a couple other really good animation schools that there's a lot of great talented people there. So, and there's a lot of people like yourself that were working interstate, and then the opportunity of because they've moved out from Brisbane because this just wasn't any work. And, as soon as we said, hey, we've got 3 movies going on here, then a lot of the artists, that's like, oh, I'm going to go back home, and I get to be home and work here. So I think that was a very, very fortunate.
It was a good way of getting some people, some skill, some talent back into the industry around Queensland as well, which hopefully more stuff keeps rolling on, which is really good. So then, the studio's up and running. How did you go approaching? Did you have a formula or an idea in mind about how you'd actually then approach directing animation? Like you said, most of your background's in live action. Did you kind of need to change, like have much of a change in thinking about the way you approached animation?
Look, to be honest, not really. There's there's more technical knowledge that you should have, right? And I think part of my background, I studied kind of visual effects as well, just because I liked it. I think I've always been really keen with computer graphics and all that kind of stuff. So I knew a little bit of everything, like because I tried Cinema 4D, for example, and I was doing motion graphics there. So I knew about the steps, and I knew about the modeling and the rigging and texturing and surfacing and rendering. So I had some knowledge that was actually quite beneficial, because it allowed me to have really good conversations with heads of departments, and I kind of didn't feel like out of my depth. But when it comes into directing, I think I approach it in a very similar way. I mean, at the end of the day, we're telling a story. It's just a different mean. So the way I like to tell stories, it hasn't really changed. And, we storyboard everything. And the way I work with the actors, it is a bit different working in the booth. But what I do like about animation is you've got much more control over pretty much everything. It's having the ability to go like 2 months down the track and changing a shot or changing a performance or changing what a chair looks like or the color of a wall, like that kind of creative freedom. It's something that I found really gratifying, and I kind of really enjoyed.
Yeah, the creative freedom. Some people can get overwhelmed by that as well and start actually getting nitpicky about the real finest thing in the background. Like you said, you can change the color of a chair after you've been looking at it for so long, and I just want to see a different color. But I guess with the constraints that were put on the 3 films in the time, you didn't have time to get too picky. How did you find time constraint when you were putting this together?
I mean, as you say, that was I guess the benefit, or because I mean these 3 films were it's a very small budget. They're a small budget film, so we couldn't allow like big production times. Like I think the cycles were, so for example, Wishmas, we started pre-production. We started storyboard like September 2017, and we delivered the film September 2018. And 6 months into Wishmas, Combat Wombat, the second film, started. So it's a really like 6-month periods for department. So it was very tight, and that forces you to make quick decisions, and to like you just can't be changing things all the time. So I was very conscious about the things that I was asking, and again, having a bit of knowledge in terms of how long things take, or how feasible is it to re-render X, or to remodel this thing, or to re-rig. Like I knew pretty early on what we could do and what we couldn't do, what we could afford and what we couldn't. And and I always tried to push the team as much as I could, because I know they had it in them, and I knew that we could. I mean, I'm a perfectionist, right? So, trying to make a film, you're always trying to make it the best thing you can. But I think that one of our strengths is that we knew all the time the budget constraints we had. And since I was coming in fresh, and I hadn't had the luxury of working in big studios with infinite amount of budget and that kind of stuff, I knew what we had. So I was just very careful in the changes and how we approached everything.
Oh, cool. Yeah, it's good when you don't know, because you kind of go, okay, well, I don't know, we can't do this, so let's just try it. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So with the Wish Mystery coming out, I'm guessing that was quite a big, exciting time to see the first one coming out. But it was also kind of a little bit, I guess you'd say a bit bittersweet, because you're still pretty much in crunch time with the second one going full on as well. Like Combat Wombat was production.
That happened. This has happened all throughout, and just now that we're about to deliver Daisy, the third film, it's not until now we start seeing like the light out of the tunnel. Because I think that when Wishmas came out, where were we? We're probably starting animation on Combat or something along those lines. So you really just don't have any time. Like you've been working on Wishmas, and then Combat comes in, and then you're working on both. And then by the time we're delivering Wishmas, Daisy was starting in boards as well. So really, you don't have time to step back and like we were kind of working in a bubble in terms of what was happening outside. So we were constrained by time and budget. So we just kind of focused, and everyone was just doing their thing. So we really never got a time to step back and see, wow, like our film is in the cinemas, and it's on DVD now. You can go to JB and buy a copy, and like that still hasn't really hit. Which, you know, I don't know what's that meant, like what's the meaning of that, like what should it hit, right? Like we just made the film, like feel very fortunate to have done it, and very happy and with 3 films. And now, you know, keen to keep working on what's coming next.
Of course, you get that as well, where people, you know, I don't know if you've had that, where people actually talk about your film to you and just go, oh yeah, I saw that, I really love the characters that are in it, I love your story arc. Because you've been in such a bubble again, you know, working hard on the second and third one, you haven't really been exposed to everyone talking about the first one, which is still new to them.
Yeah, it's definitely strange, because I mean, Wishmas now feels so far away, and I was auditioning an actress for an upcoming project, and in our conversations, like, oh, I watched the Wishmas 3. It's like, oh yeah, Retrieval, of course, because it's out. Like you've seen it, and being able to have a conversation with them about it, it's really refreshing, and it's different. So yeah, that's very nice.
So like you're saying, they ran into each other pretty well. But did you have, because they're very different stories, they're focusing on very different characters through this, did you have any different approaches or anything new that you were thinking about when you went into directing Combat Wombat?
Yeah, so with Wishmas in particular, we were being really safe. It's a very safe film, just because when we were doing it, we were just starting the studio up, and everyone was new in the team. So in the script, we went, as I said, safe, because we didn't know what were our capabilities. We didn't know how much action we could do. We didn't know how many environments we could do. We didn't know how many characters we could do, and maintaining the quality at the same time, right? So Wishmas is a very different film, because, you know, it's more inspired in those kind of 80s quest adventure films, and it kind of has that kind of nostalgic feel. It's got a very nice message, but that film was always kind of the testing ground of what we could do. And then by the time Combat came about, the team had already been together for at least 6 months. We knew the ins and outs of what rigs could do. We did an improvement on them from the first to the second, and that improvement stayed into the third as well. So we found better ways to integrate everything. We were learning Redshift, which was our engine renderer that we used for the films. So our lighting team kind of started getting more used to using Redshift and the textures and how to work around. Pipeline was improving, so everything made things easier. So with Combat, which is much more up-to-date, modern kind of animation film, things just started to fall into place much quicker, and managed to, you know, tell a better story and visually make it more better than was in Wishmas, and keep improving on that.
Yep. So with those improvements came more action sequences, or more color, or more light, or did you get more characters in? Because I know when you look at Wishmas Tree, there's these shots of all the kids around the tree. Like, that was quite a lot of characters in there. Is there any scenes inside Combat that kind of then go above how many characters you got in that?
Yeah, I mean, you know, with Wishmas, we wrote it in a way that, because Tales from Sanctuary City, it's like the universe itself is calling to this big, massive city that we were building up. And then Wishmas, like, it's the first 20 minutes, and then we got them out of the city because we just weren't sure if we could do crowds, like how many people we can sell it. Like, we're not going to stay in the city for a full film, and then you only see like a couple of people, you know, walking past in at the background, right? So we send them out into the wild, and that way we could creatively kind of find ways to avoid having multiple characters on screen. But then Combat, the whole film is in the city. Like, it's packed from the start. And we realized that we could put more than 2 characters in the background. So, and we could do a lot of action scenes with a lot of camera moves and things like that. So we kind of unleashed when it comes to to combat. And yeah, so we got plenty of crowd scenes, and then from there, like just peeking into Daisy Quokka, a third film, the whole film is in a stadium. So now we've got like a massive crowd, and you know, and we've achieved it. We've managed to do it. So just seeing the difference between Daisy and Wishmas is astounding, and it just proves how the team has learned and adapted, and just the amount of work and passion they put into it to achieve what we have.
Wow, that's cool. It's exciting. You mentioned Daisy, so that's further down the track. But is there, with Combat, you know, Combat's coming out soon.
Yes.
Is there like some sort of is it out somewhere that's coming out? Is there going to be a red carpet or something that happens with it?
So Combat Wombat will be premiering at the Brisbane International Film Festival in 2 weeks, which I think it's on the 4th of October. And I'm not sure because of COVID if there's any red carpet events or anything like that. But the film will be screened, which is very nice, and there'll be a little Q&A with myself and Ryan Greaves, the co-producer. And I think there's another showing on the Wednesday, just because the Sunday one got sold out. And then I think shortly after that, I believe it'll be coming out in cinemas. I don't have confirmed dates yet, but I think that around sometime in October it will be out in cinemas.
Oh, excellent. I'll let everyone know. Make sure you keep an eye out for Combat Wombat, which will be coming out soon. It is the second one in a trilogy, which is currently done at the moment. So thank you so much for sharing your journey so far with us, Ricard. I can't wait to actually see the third one as well when it does come out, and look forward to the next things that you actually step up and bring to fruition from Brisbane's animation hub of, you know, Australia now.
Awesome. Thanks, Kim. No, it's been a great pleasure. Thanks for having me. We are very excited in the studio just to show what we've been cooking in this little office in South Brisbane. And yeah, I mean, there's so much amazing talent in Brisbane, so and in Queensland. So yeah, don't go anywhere. Stay here.
Excellent. All right, guys. Thank you very much. Thanks for joining us. You can look up Like a Photon somewhere on the web. You can do a search. I'll leave a link down in the description below so you can actually check them out if you want to see some of the other awesome work they've done. But until the next time, I'll say bye-bye.